It repealed and replaced the Armed Forces Pensions Act, Cap 295, and the Uganda People's Defense Forces Act, Cap 307. Since 2005, the defense sector has undergone significant transformation arising from both emerging threats and opportunities. Several of them were unforeseen and not adequately addressed by the Uganda People's Defense Forces Act, Cap 330. The Act, for instance, did not provide for the provision of health care for the officers and management of militants. It did not also provide for the management of military veterans, management of pension and conferring of service medals by the defense forces. It is important, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, to note that since 2005, the administrative structure of the Uganda People's Defense Forces has evolved. This in turn has led to the Special Forces Command and the Reserve Forces being elevated from divisions under the Land Forces to independent services. The amendment before you today has taken this into account. Additionally, following the judgment of the Supreme Court in Constitutional Appeal number 2 of 2021, Attorney General versus Honorable Michael Kabazikuruka, that name there is need to align the provisions of the Act with the Supreme Court decision. This bill accordingly gives effect to the orders and recommendations of the Supreme Court. And Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I believe that the justifications as are embedded in the remedies proposed in the bill, one of them is to align the Act with the new government policies and the command, control, and other administrative structures of defense forces. Another one is to improve the welfare of the officers and militants of defense forces, to address the glaring gaps in health care by providing for health care for officers and militants. 3, to harmonize the management of military veterans. 4, to provide for the decentralization of pension authority from the Ministry of Public Service to the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs. 5, to enhance disability compensation to enable fair payment of compensation to officers and militants of the defense forces for injuries sustained while on duty and address the resulting challenges faced by officers and militants living with post-traumatic stress disorder. 6, to restructure and re-establish the courts-martial in the defense forces in accordance with Article 129(1)(d) of the Constitution and prescribe their jurisdiction to provide for the membership and qualification of presiding officers of the courts-martial and for the independence of the courts-martial. 7, to provide for appeals from the courts-martial. 8, to prescribe exceptional circumstances under which civilians may be tried by the courts-martial. Next is to establish a military courts department which shall be responsible for the administration of justice within the defense forces and provide for its membership. Again, to establish a disciplinary unit within the Defense Forces which shall be responsible for the discipline of the members of the Military Courts Department. And finally on that is to prescribe the arms and ammunition which are the monopoly of the Defense Forces and classified stores of the Defense Forces. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, this law is not about civilians being before courts martial. This law is about civilians who voluntarily acquire arms, equipments of violence. This law is also about the civilians who voluntarily masquerade as militants. This law is about those who would commit offense with the military or with the help of any military officer to be tried as proposed. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to dispel the fear that this law is targeting 45 million Ugandans. That's a lie. This law is targeting those people who have preoccupation in their minds to commit offense against Ugandans. This law is to protect Ugandans, the vulnerable Ugandans, against violent people who have firearms or who behave like military personnel. I beg to submit.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now invite the Chair to give us his report.
Right Honorable Speaker, I wish to lay on the table minutes and record